Hello everyone, Temple Storm Q&A is out and I thought I will talk about some of the points.
What vehicles will the Storm fit inside? The Storm officially shares the same garage size as the Camural Nova and Anvil Atlas platform vehicles, so anything that supports them. However, its reduced height and length allow it to fit into some ships that cannot fit the above, such as the Anvil Carrack and Drake Corsair.
Carrack was sure, Corsair looked like a no-go. Nice to know that the Storm tank can fit into the Corsair. Reminder, vehicles in Star Citizen are comical huge. The Storm tank, which is a light tank, is bigger than a mouse, a World War II super heavy tank which was a silly design. It's longer than a mouse, it's twice as wide and almost same height. Yeah, this is really silly. I understand, sometimes games need to have things a little bit bigger, but this is absurd.
As the Storm is intended to be a smaller fast assault vehicle but is so large that it currently only fits in vehicles that can transport the Nova tank/Atlas platform vehicles, where does it fit in the grand scheme of things? For example, in which scenarios would one be favored over the other? As mentioned above, while it has the same garage size, the Storm's dimensions allow it to be carried by many other ships, allowing for greater flexibility in terms of transport and deployment. The two tanks operate vastly different roles. The Storm is fast and lightly armed, while the Nova is much larger and slower but packs more of a punch.
The light Storm tank is even wider than a Nova tank, 7.5 versus 7 meters. Yeah, Star Citizen is run by artists. Basic physics, logistics, engineering, architecture play no role. I think the main reason the light Storm tank is so big is to limit what ships can carry it. You want to carry a Storm tank? Buy a bigger ship, you pleb.
How fast is the Storm intended to be compared to other ground combat vehicles? All stats are subject to change, so we won't list specifics right now, but expect the Storm to be faster than the Nova and Atlas series and closer to the Ursa in speed. What is tactical spec armor, and how does it differ from the mil-spec components that have been offered in the past? This is just a marketing phrase and has no special behavior in-game. The Storm is as normally armored as you'd expect a tank of this role/type to be.
Yeah, marketing phrases, rule of cool, eye candy fluff, but ignoring even basic physics, engineering and logistics as the name of the game.
How well defended is this tank compared to, say, the Nova, Ursa, or Centurion, and how does its armor fare in comparison? In terms of durability, it sits between the Nova and Centurion and has significantly more than the Ursa.
This will get tested, of course. I cannot wait. Flicker, are you ready?
As tanks are intended to be off-road vehicles, will the low ground clearance of this model limit traversal? Does the tread configuration of the Storm give it any sort of advantage when hitting obstacles on rough terrain? The Storm has relatively good ground clearance, especially compared to the Nova, and its design allows for much greater arrival/departure angles without hitting the hull.
This will get tested too, so far I'm not convinced. Remember, a lot of terrain is cluttered with stones and boulders, and this doesn't look like good ground clearance, especially left and right of the tracks. This is totally unnecessary. This makes this thing way too wide and tracks don't have enough ground clearance.
Will the bespoke size 3 weapon have the same upscaled damages for its size, similar to other vehicles with unique weapons? For example, the size 5 Slayer cannon for the Nova has, in the current state of the game, 18,500 alpha damage, while other S5 ballistic cannons only deal 1,500. Yes. Like the Nova, the size of the weapon doesn't truly follow the other systems given its bespoke nature, allowing for independent tuning, which puts it at a much higher alpha/DPS than the number would normally be.
This sounds like marketing speech. It's rather dubious, and this will get tested too.
What about barrel elevation and depression? Considering the Nova's barrel can't depress far enough to aim a little downward, how does the Storm fare? Again, all stats are subject to change, so we don't want to give exact numbers at this point. However, it's safe to say the Storm's depression and elevation ranges are significantly better than the Nova, allowing you to hit things on the ground almost directly in front and to the side of the vehicle. To achieve this, the turret extends up a little when the vehicle powers on.
CRT totally ignores the fact that Nova tank has only -5 degrees of gun depression for no other reason than a genius put a gun sight or flashlight under the barrel. Don't tell me this is Balancing. I absolutely love intelligent balancing, and I absolutely despise stupid balancing. Nova tank could have easily minus 10 degrees of gun depression like modern tanks, and really needs this. Terrain isn't flat, we don't want flat terrain. If your Nova tank stands on even a very low hill, it cannot hit things that are below it unless they are very far away.
Why just one size 3 weapon? This was an intentional design choice, as the bespoke nature of the gun allows it to perform very strongly for its size. We didn't want the Storm to be excessively overgunned or be too much for a sole driver to manage and fight with compared to other vehicles.
It would be easy to add a machine gun, but this is CIG, so we don't get this.
A single size 0 power plant seems very underpowered when compared to other vehicles. Will this be sufficient to power not only the vehicle itself but also its shields and bespoke energy autocannon? How do you intend to support this should a single power plant prove to be insufficient in the future? This is something we'll expand upon in the future, but the upcoming resource network changes have given us the opportunity to re-evaluate sizes and quantities of items aboard all vehicles. So, newer vehicles can seem under-specced relative to existing vehicles, but, in reality, they will operate effectively as designed. Some vehicles will also have items reduced to be more in line with the upcoming changes.
This tells you a lot about the competence of the people on top who are managing this project. Year 11 in CIG still goes. This is something we will expand upon in the future. Isn't it time, actually wasn't it time many years ago, to finish basics like resource network and components? Once again, this looks like a 2-man indie team in year 1. I was only talking about things I find important. Let me know what you think in the comments below and see you next time. Bye. Auf Wiedersehen. Hey, you're still here. You might want to join me on Twitter. My Twitter account is Camural_SC.